Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at a watch that turns back time, but perhaps not as far as you imagine. This is the IWC Portofino Hand-Wound 8 Days reference 5101-02. Now the Portofino line at IWC, in the modern sense, got its start in the early 80s with the original fried egg, the Portofino 5251. A moon phase watch designed to fit an original IWC pocket watch caliber. It wasn't big for its time, it was huge. At 46 millimeters, it was a monstrosity, even compared to the Portuguese. It made the Portuguese look like a Datejust reduced or a Speedmaster reduced. And the Portofino continues as sort of a special line along with the Da Vinci's in the IWC catalog, not a sports watch but a formal watch, and one of Schaffhausen's few. In 2011, IWC put real work into revitalizing the Portofino line and giving it the pride of place that it deserves as one of the few and true dress references within the IWC catalog. And what you see here, the 5101, 45 millimeters in stainless steel, reimagines the Portofino in the image of the 1981 original of the fried egg. But unlike the fried egg with its white enamel dial and its yellow gold case, this combination of a versatile gloss black dial with a stainless steel polished case is versatile, handsome, and contemporary. It's also 1 millimeter smaller at 45 millimeters, and on my wrist, which is 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see it's comfortable, it's handsome, and it cuts a very low profile. Being as broad as it is, the watch really spreads its mass quite nicely. The lugs are of the almost not there variety, really having the appearance of soldered on pieces attached to an old style pocket watch case, and that's a deliberate look because the original Portofino was designed to give that impression, and it was true to form. Now the watch does feature an IWC in-house caliber designed in the size and style of a pocket watch movement, but we'll get to that in a moment. On the dial, you're looking at all hand-applied indices with Roman numeral 12 at the 12 o'clock station on the dial. Beautiful diamond-polished foy hands for the subdials as well as the center hours and minutes, and a nicely integrated date disc at 3 o'clock. With the monotone date disc, black under black, it really blends in quite seamlessly. It's the kind of thing that nicely takes the place of a 3 o'clock index, and you only really notice it when you're looking for it, so it's well integrated. The watch is very comfortable on my wrist, and a big part of that is the gorgeous alligator Santoni strap. Now Santoni makes the straps for IWC, and they make them to an incredible standard. Alligator on the top, you can see beautiful hand-stitched calfskin on the bottom for a supple feel on the wrist. Ergonomically, it's a real success, and it complements this classical-looking timepiece very nicely. This is a formal watch, but because it's not colored gold, because it's a dark dial, it has a lot of power and versatility. This is an effective casual timepiece, and just in terms of the limitations of the watch, I would say the only real limitation in terms of what you can wear it with and when you can wear it would be the traditional dress watch 3 ATM water resistance rating. So this is splash water resistance only. So get your aqua timer out if you're going to jump in the pool or go from turf to surf. Now you can see on the wrist, my wrist being 6 1/3 inches in circumference, it's really not pushing the limits of this watch ergonomically. I would say down to 6 inches you can wear this watch quite soundly, and you won't have any sense of overlap at the lugs over the edges of your wrist. Very comfortable. It's a big boy, but it's not a big brute. This is a gentle giant that'll play well with a smaller wrist like mine, and if your wrist is flat across the top or a fairly standard oval profile, you'll have no problem whatsoever. Now I want to call attention to the movement inside this watch because it's really the pièce de résistance. Introduced in 2011 when the Portofino line was really reimagined, and this watch is the flagship of that line. This caliber 59210 IWC in-house 8-day manual wind movement is really in the spirit of the caliber 95 derived pocket watch movement from that early 1980s Portofino. That movement filled the entire case back, and it was also one of the first watches to feature a sapphire case back, and both traditions are upheld here in the Portofino Hand-Wound 8 Days. A gorgeous movement, a very large power reserve via an enormous mainspring barrel. Although it's rated to 8 days, this 50,000 series caliber, it is derived from the automatic winding 50,000 series caliber, but the 59210 actually has a 9-day power reserve, but that last day of power reserve is locked out because IWC has timed this watch and determined that it gives its best performance in terms of isochronism and precision over 8 days. So that last day of power reserve is automatically locked out when the watch detects that it's run down to its last day. Also free sprung with a Breguet overcoil hairspring. It's a very shock resistant movement. Now I wouldn't take this one out, for a game of rugby or football, but the bottom line is the kind of shocks and disturbances that can throw off a traditional pocket watch movement or even a traditional wristwatch movement that can move an index, that can disturb the hairspring's oscillations. You don't suffer that here. The free-sprung index cannot move. The regulator cannot be displaced and leave the watch running faster or slower. Moreover, the overcoil Breguet design, in addition to being more shock resistant, is also more resistant to positional variations in timing precision and more resistant to temperature variations. So you've got a lot of durability and precision engineered into the watch. It is beautifully, if simply, finished. There's a little bit of calculated austerity here in the Schaffhausen tradition, but you do have the linear Côte de Genève striations, a gorgeous, very tight, very neat perlage pattern across the base plate, and you can see that all of the edges have been drawn to remove the burrs. There's a little bit of polish on the screw heads, which I like, because oftentimes I've seen blued screws that cover up machining imperfections, that cover up marks left by various parts of the production process that seem rather industrial. When you leave the screw heads unadorned, unoxidized, you just show the bare metal and you polish it with chamfered slots and anglage around the edges, the circumferential edges of the screw, you're really showing the quality of your metalwork, really bearing all to the world. IWC does that, and I like it a lot. You can just barely see the circular grained train wheels peeking out, and then there's a diagonal rayon pattern radiating outward from the mainspring barrel's cap. A gorgeous presentation, if simple. It's very well suited to a large, beautiful, traditional style dress watch. Not Baroque, but sober and competent. This watch just exudes masculinity. Everything from the power of that black dial to the incredible ratio of dial to bezel that makes it appear even larger than its 45 millimeters, to this beautifully finished, beautifully engineered movement. It's very sober, upright, Teutonic, traditional, and yet at the same time it does have a sort of beauty in its simplicity that I think is emblematic of the rare but always appreciated IWC dress watch tradition. It's something that's shared with the best of the Da Vincis, with the classical Portuguese line, and I feel that in this Portofino. It's a worthy tribute to the 1981 original, but it has a very strong identity in its own right. A modern engineered movement, a gorgeous contemporary aesthetic, and the versatility to go essentially everywhere you go as long as you're not getting wet. I really like this IWC Portofino Hand-Wound 8 Days, reference 510102. If you like what you see here, if you like a gorgeous dress watch with modern sports watch proportions, but due deference to history, especially IWC's in-house history, I have no doubt this IWC Portofino Hand-Wound 8 Days in stainless steel with a black dial, manufactured movement, and a gorgeous historical homage will be the watch you want.